The massive alien ship hung in space like a dark mountain. Its hull was black and covered with sharp spines that glowed red in the darkness. Inside the command center, Admiral Vextar stood before a huge window looking down at the planet below. His reptilian face twisted into what humans would call a smile, but on his species it looked more like a snarl. The planet was called Kepler 442b by the humans who lived there. It was a beautiful world with blue oceans and green continents. 3 years ago, a human colony ship had landed there with 50,000 people looking for a new home. They had built cities and farms. They had raised children. They thought they were safe. They were wrong. Vextar's ship was just one of 200 warships that now surrounded the human world. The Zephyrian Empire had discovered that this planet contained trilithium, one of the most valuable substances in the galaxy. The humans living there were just insects that needed to be swept away. A holographic display flickered to life in front of Vextar. The image showed the Galactic Council chamber, a vast dome filled with representatives from dozens of alien species. Some looked like giant insects with multiple arms. Others were tall and thin with gray skin and large black eyes. A few were energy beings that glowed with their own light. All of them were more advanced than the humans. The council speaker was Kelanash, a creature that stood 12 feet tall and looked like a cross between a praying mantis and a spider. His voice made a clicking sound when he spoke. Admiral Vextar, present your case to the council. Vextar straightened his shoulders. His species was known for being warriors, and he looked the part. 8 feet of muscle and scales with claws that could tear through metal. Honored council members, the Zephyrian Empire claims the world known as Kepler 442b. Our surveys show it contains enough trilithium to power our fleet for 1,000 years. What of the human infestation on this world? Asked another council member, a blob-like creature that spoke through a translator device. The humans will be removed, Vextar said simply. They are a primitive species with no real technology, no psychic powers, no energy manipulation abilities. They do not deserve to hold such a valuable world. The holographic display split, showing another image. This one showed a human man standing in what looked like the bridge of a spacecraft. He was in his 40s with brown hair and tired eyes. His uniform was simple compared to the elaborate clothing worn by the aliens. This was Captain Jake Morrison, commander of the human colony. Morrison's voice came through the speakers and he sounded desperate. Honored council members, my people have lived on this world for 3 years. We have built homes and schools. Our children were born here. This is our home now. We ask only for the right to continue living in peace. Several of the alien council members made sounds that might have been laughter. The idea that humans deserved the same rights as advanced species was amusing to them. Kalanash's compound eyes glittered. Captain Morrison, your species is young. You lack the abilities that mark true civilization. You cannot manipulate energy with your minds. You have no psychic talents. Your technology is crude and primitive. The Zephyrian Empire has legitimate claim to this world's resources. My people are not primitive, Morrison said, but his voice lacked confidence. We have survived on this world. We have built a functioning society. Built with what? Vextar interrupted. Metal tools and chemical explosives? Computing machines. Made of silicon and copper? Your weapons fire solid projectiles like some ancient kinetic weapon. Your ships move through space using crude fusion rockets. You are barely more advanced than the animals that lived in caves. Morrison's face grew red, but he kept his voice level. We may not have your abilities, but we are a peaceful people. We harm no one. We ask only to be left alone. Peace is luxury for the strong, Vextar said. The weak do not get to choose peace or war. That choice belongs to their betters. On Morrison's ship, Lieutenant Commander Lisa Harper watched the transmission with growing anger. She was Morrison's second in command, a woman in her 30s with short blonde hair and sharp blue eyes. She had served in Earth's small defense force before volunteering for the colony mission. Now she wished they had brought more than just converted cargo ships. Harper turned to the communications officer. Any word from the surface? The young man shook his head. Still radio silence from most settlements. The Zephyrians started their orbital bombardment 2 hours ago. Some of our people made it to the underground shelters, but we don't know how many. Down on the planet's surface, the bombardment was devastating. Bright beams of energy fell from the sky like deadly rain. Where they hit, buildings turned to ash and metal melted like ice. The humans had built their settlements in the open, never expecting to need military defenses. In the mountain caves that had been converted from mining operations, thousands of colonists huddled in the darkness. The air was thick and hard to breathe. Children cried while their parents tried to comfort them. Emergency lights cast strange shadows on the rock walls. Morrison's wife, Karen, sat with their 12-year-old twins, Emma and Alex. Emma was coughing badly, and Karen didn't have medicine to help her. The colony's medical supplies were limited, and most of the doctors were trapped in other shelters across the planet. "Will Daddy come back?" Alex asked. Karen forced a smile. "Your father is a good captain. He'll find a way to protect us." But she wasn't sure she believed her own words. Back in space, the Galactic Council was reaching its decision. Kellanash spoke in his clicking voice. "The Council finds in favor of the Zephyrian Empire. The humans will be given 1 solar cycle to evacuate the planet. After that time, any remaining humans will be considered hostile combatants." Morrison felt his heart sink. 1 day to move 50,000 people? It was impossible. "Honored Council, we need more time. We have children, elderly people, sick people who cannot be moved quickly." "That is not our concern," Vexstar said. "Your people chose to settle on a world that was not yours to claim. The consequences of that choice are yours to bear." The holographic displays went dark, leaving Morrison alone with his thoughts. Around him, his bridge crew looked to him for orders, but what could he tell them? They had 12 ships against 200. Their weapons were designed for hunting pirates and asteroids, not fighting a military fleet. Harper approached Morrison's command chair. "Captain, what are your orders?" Morrison looked out at the alien fleet surrounding their world. Each Zephyrian ship was bigger and more powerful than anything humanity had ever built. Their weapons could punch through human armor like paper. Their shields could turn aside any attack the human fleet could make. "Signal all ships," Morrison said finally. "We make our stand here. Even if we can't win, we can buy time for our people on the surface." "Sir," Harper said quietly, "we're outnumbered 20 to 1. Our weapons are no match for theirs." "I know," Morrison replied. "But these are our families down there. Our children. If we run now, they all die? At least this way, we go down fighting." The human fleet, tiny compared to the Zephyrian armada, began to move into attack formation. 12 small ships preparing to face an enemy that saw them as nothing more than annoying insects. The aliens had superior technology, greater numbers, and powers that humans couldn't understand. What the aliens didn't know was that 47 light-years away, other humans were already preparing to prove them wrong. The Zephyrian ships spread out around the planet like a net made of steel and death. Admiral Vexstar watched from his command bridge as his forces took their positions. 200 warships now controlled every route to and from the human world. "Nothing would escape. Begin the blockade," Vexstar ordered. His voice echoed through the ship's communication system. "No human vessel leaves this system alive." Down on the planet's surface, the real horror was beginning. Massive Zephyrian transport ships descended through the atmosphere like falling meteors. Each one carried 100 ground troops, warriors bred for conquest and trained from birth to kill. The Zephyrian soldiers were nightmares made real. 8 feet tall and covered in natural armor that looked like black metal scales. Their faces were long and narrow with rows of sharp teeth. Their eyes glowed red in the darkness. Each warrior carried weapons that fired beams of pure energy, hot enough to melt rock. Marine Colonel Danny Torres crouched behind a fallen tree and watched the alien landing ships through his binoculars. He was a career soldier, 42 years old, with gray streaks in his black hair. He had served in 3 wars on Earth before volunteering for the colony mission. Now he wished he had brought more than just 100 Marines. "How many do you Count? Asked Sergeant Amy Rodriguez. She was lying next to him in the dirt, her rifle ready. Rodriguez was an explosives expert who could make a bomb out of almost anything. Torres hoped they would need that skill. At least 5,000 troops in the first wave, Torres replied. Maybe more in the ships we can't see. The alien soldiers began their advance across the open ground where the human settlement of New Haven had stood just hours before. Now it was nothing but smoking ruins and melted metal. The Zephyrians moved in perfect formation, their weapons scanning for any sign of human life. Torres pressed the button on his radio. All units, this is Bravo Base. The enemy is moving toward the mountain shelters. Fall back to defensive positions. And remember what we practiced? Hit and run? Make every shot count? Corporal Ben Taylor was hiding in a communications bunker carved into the mountainside. He was just 23 years old, too young to be fighting aliens in a war humanity couldn't win. His job was to keep contact with the human fleet in space and coordinate with the other resistance cells scattered across the planet. Bravo Base, this is Mountaintop, Taylor spoke into his headset. I've got Captain Morrison on the line. He wants a status report. Torres grabbed the radio handset. Jake, we've got big problems down here. These alien soldiers are tough. Our regular bullets just bounce off their armor. Morrison's voice crackled through the static. What about the mining charges Amy was working on? We're about to find out, Torres said. He looked at Rodriguez, who was placing explosive devices made from mining equipment along the path the aliens would take. Amy thinks she can hurt them with shaped charges, but we only have enough for a few attacks. In space above the planet, the human fleet was learning just how outmatched they were. Commander Rick Patterson stood on the bridge of his ship, the Vigilant. It had been a cargo hauler before the war, converted with whatever weapons they could find. Now it was trying to be a warship against impossible odds. Contact bearing 270? Called Navigator Susan Walsh. She was monitoring the sensor displays, watching for any chance to strike back at their enemies. 3 Zephyrian. Patrol ships moving to intercept, Patterson nodded. All weapons, target the lead ship. Let's see what these aliens are made of. The Vigilant opened fire with its main gun, a weapon designed for breaking up asteroids. The solid projectile streaked through space at tremendous speed, but the Zephyrian ship's energy shield caught it like a glove catching a baseball. The alien vessel didn't even slow down? Their shields are stronger than we thought, Walsh reported. Our kinetic weapons aren't getting through. The Zephyrian ships returned fire with weapons that turned metal into gas. Bright beams of energy reached across the darkness of space and struck the Vigilant's hull. Armor plating melted away like butter under a blowtorch. Alarms began screaming throughout the ship. Hull breach on deck 3, someone shouted. We're losing atmosphere, Patterson gritted his teeth. Emergency repairs, seal that breach. All power to engines. We need to get out of range, but it was too late. The second energy beam struck the ship's reactor room. The Vigilant exploded in a ball of fire and radiation, taking 37 human lives with it. On the planet's surface, the first battle between human and Zephyrian ground forces was about to begin. Torres and his Marines had taken positions in the rocky hills above the main shelter entrance. They waited as the alien soldiers approached, their red eyes glowing in the twilight. Wait for my signal, Torres whispered into his radio. Let them get close. The Zephyrians moved with the confidence of a superior force. They had conquered dozens of worlds and destroyed countless primitive species. These humans would be no different. Their energy weapons could cut through any armor the humans possessed. Their battle suits could deflect any projectile weapon. What they didn't expect was the desperation of people fighting for their families when the aliens were 50 meters away. Rodriguez triggered her first explosive device, the shaped charge. Made from mining equipment and packed with industrial explosives, sent a jet of superheated metal directly into the lead Zephyrian's chest. The alien warrior's armor cracked and he fell backward, green blood pouring from the wound. Now! Torres shouted. The Marines opened fire with everything they had. Rifle bullets bounced off alien armor, but they created sparks and noise that confused the enemy. More importantly, they kept the Zephyrians focused on the wrong targets while Rodriguez triggered her remaining explosives. The second shaped charge caught 3 aliens in its blast. The third took out 5 more. In seconds, Torres had killed 9 enemy soldiers with weapons the aliens had never seen before, but the Zephyrians adapted quickly. They spread out and began using their energy weapons to melt the rocks where the humans were hiding. Torres watched his Marines die one by one. As alien fire turned their cover into molten slag, "Fall back," he ordered. Planned withdrawal to Position 2. The surviving Marines retreated deeper into the mountains, leaving booby traps behind them. Every step cost the aliens time and lives, but Torres knew it wasn't enough. They were buying hours when they needed days. Back in the underground shelter, Morrison's daughter Emma was getting worse. Her coughing fits were lasting longer, and she was having trouble breathing. The air in the caves was stale and full of dust from the bombardment above. Karen Morrison held her daughter close, trying to comfort her. Around them, other families dealt with their own problems. Food was running low. The water recycling system was failing. Children asked questions their parents couldn't answer. "Mom, why are the aliens trying to hurt us?" Alex asked. Karen didn't know what to say. How do you explain to a 12-year-old that some beings in the universe saw humans as nothing more than pests to be exterminated? "Sometimes people want things that belong to others," she said finally. "The aliens want our planet." "But we were here first," Alex protested. "Being first doesn't always matter," Karen replied. "Sometimes the strong take what they want from the weak." Above ground, Dr. Alan Carter was doing something that might change everything. He was the colony's chief scientist, a man who had spent his life studying alien technology from the few crashed ships humanity had found over the years. Now he had access to real, working Zephyrian equipment. Carter worked by flashlight in the ruins of his laboratory. He had managed to salvage pieces of alien technology from a damaged Zephyrian patrol craft. What he found shocked him. The aliens' weapons and defenses were all based on the same principle. They channeled energy through biological neural networks. Their brains were directly connected to their technology, through implants that allowed them to control machines with thought alone. "That's why they think we're primitive," Carter said to himself. "Every other species in the galaxy has this ability. They all evolved the same way, but humans are different." Carter realized that this biological connection was both the aliens' greatest strength and their biggest weakness. Their shields and weapons were designed to stop energy attacks controlled by living minds. But human technology worked differently. Human machines were controlled by computers and electronics, not biological neural networks. The implications were staggering. Every weapon, every defense, every piece of technology the Galactic Council possessed was designed to fight against enemies exactly like themselves. They had never encountered a species that approached technology from a completely different direction. Carter began to understand why human kinetic weapons had been dismissed as primitive. The aliens couldn't imagine why anyone would use solid projectiles when energy beams were so much more efficient. But their shields were designed to stop energy, not solid matter traveling at high speed. As explosions echoed through the mountains above, Carter started to smile. The aliens thought humans were weak and primitive. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. High above the planet, beyond the range of Zephyrian sensors, a small probe floated in the darkness of space. It had been launched hours earlier by Captain Morrison, carrying a message that would travel 47 light-years to reach Earth. Captain Jake Morrison stood alone on the bridge of his ship, watching the tactical display show the destruction of his fleet. In the past 6 hours, they had lost 9 of their 12 vessels. The Vigilant was gone. The cargo hauler Steadfast had been vaporized by Zephyrian plasma cannons. The converted mining ship Prospector had tried to ram an alien cruiser and succeeded only in destroying itself. Now, Morrison had just 3 ships left. 3 ships against nearly 200 alien warships. The mathematics of the situation were clear and brutal, Lieutenant Commander. Lisa Harper approached Morrison's command chair. Her uniform was torn and dirty from when her previous ship had been destroyed. She had barely made it to an escape pod before the enemy fire consumed her vessel. "Captain, we're receiving emergency signals from the surface," Harper reported. "Colonel, Torres says the aliens are using some kind of superweapon. They're calling it the Devastator." Morrison felt his stomach drop. What kind of weapon? "Long-range sensors show a massive energy buildup on the main Zephyrian command ship," Harper said. "Torres thinks it's designed to crack the planet's crust. If they fire it, everyone in the underground shelters will die." Morrison closed his eyes. His wife and children were down there in those caves, along with 50,000 other colonists. The thought of them being buried alive under tons of rock made him feel sick. "How long before the weapon is ready?" Morrison asked. "Our computers." "Estimate 6 hours," Harper replied. "Maybe less." Morrison looked at his remaining ships on the tactical display. The New Horizon was his flagship, a converted passenger liner with light weapons. The freighter Liberty carried mostly mining equipment. The small escort vessel Guardian had the best weapons of the three, but that wasn't saying much. "Open a channel to Earth," Morrison ordered. Harper looked confused. "Sir, Earth is 47 light-years away. Even with quantum communication, it would take days to get a response." "Not quantum communication," Morrison said. "Emergency beacon, full power transmission." Harper's eyes widened. "Captain, that will reveal our position to every alien ship in the system. They'll know exactly where to find us." "They already know where we are," Morrison replied. "And in 6 hours, it won't matter anyway." The emergency beacon was humanity's most advanced communication technology. It used quantum entanglement to send messages instantly across vast distances, but it required enormous amounts of power and could only send simple data. Most importantly, it would tell Earth exactly where the colony was located and what was happening. What Morrison didn't tell Harper was that the beacon would reveal something else. For over 100 years, Earth had been keeping a secret from the rest of the galaxy. Humanity had not stayed on one world. They had spread out, establishing hidden colonies throughout the galaxy, connected by a network of quantum communication. Relays, the Zephyrians and the Galactic Council thought they were dealing with a single primitive world. They were about to learn how wrong they were. On Earth, 47 light-years away, Fleet Admiral Kevin Brooks was having his morning coffee when the emergency alert began screaming through the headquarters of the United Earth Defense Force. The building, hidden beneath the mountains of Colorado, had been constructed in secret over decades. It was the command center for humanity's greatest secret. Brooks was a man in his 60s with gray hair and intelligent eyes. He had spent his entire career preparing for this moment, the day when humanity would finally make contact with alien life. He had hoped it would be peaceful contact. The emergency beacon told him otherwise. "Sir, we're receiving a Code 7 transmission," reported his aide, a young officer named Lieutenant Grace Parker. "First contact scenario, hostile aliens. Colony under attack." Brooks set down his coffee cup and walked to the main command center. The room was filled with computer screens and communication equipment that represented technology decades ahead of anything the civilian population had ever seen. Hundreds of officers worked at their stations, monitoring humanity's hidden colonies and secret military installations. "Where's the signal coming from?" Brooks asked. "Kepler 442b, sir," Parker replied. "The Morrison colony. 50,000 civilians under attack by something called the Zephyrian Empire." Brooks felt a chill run down his spine. The Morrison colony had been one of humanity's most exposed settlements, placed deliberately in an area where they might encounter alien life. It had been a calculated risk, and now that risk had become reality. "Activate Protocol 7, Brooks ordered. Full military response. Protocol 7 was the plan humanity had developed for this exact situation. Hidden bases throughout the galaxy began receiving orders. Warships that had been disguised as cargo vessels or mining platforms suddenly revealed their true nature. Weapon systems that had been powered down for decades came online. The human military had spent over a century preparing for war with unknown alien forces. They had developed technology that worked on completely different principles from what the rest of the galaxy used. Where other species relied on energy manipulation and psychic powers, humans had focused on artificial intelligence, nuclear physics, and quantum mechanics. Captain Matt Johnson received his orders while his ship was disguised as a deep space research station near the edge of human territory. The Endeavour looked like a civilian science vessel from the outside, but it was actually a military dreadnought packed with weapons that no alien species had ever encountered. Johnson was a career officer who had trained his entire life for this moment. He was 38 years old with the kind of calm confidence that came from knowing his business. His ship and crew had been waiting in secret for 20 years, ready to respond when humanity needed them. "All stations, battle alert," Johnson announced over the ship's communication system. "This is not a drill. We have first contact with hostile aliens. Our mission is to reach the Morrison colony and protect human civilians." The Endeavour's disguise fell away as hidden armor panels slid into place and weapon ports opened. The ship's true size became apparent as sections that had appeared to be cargo holds revealed themselves to be fighter bays and missile launchers. In minutes, the research vessel became a warship. Johnson was not alone. 19 other ships received the same orders and began the same transformation. The first wave of Earth's response fleet prepared to make the journey to Kepler 442b using faster-than-light drives that operated on principles the Galactic Council had never seen. Back at the Morrison colony, the situation was getting desperate. On the planet's surface, Colonel Torres and his remaining Marines were running out of places to hide. The Zephyrian ground forces had adapted to the human hit-and-run tactics and were systematically clearing the mountains. "How many explosives do we have left?" Torres asked Sergeant Rodriguez. "Maybe enough for 2 more ambush," she replied. "After that, we're down to rifle fire and harsh language." Torres looked at the tactical map Corporal Taylor had drawn on the cave wall. Red marks showed Zephyrian positions. Blue marks showed human defensive positions. There were a lot more red marks than blue ones. "They're herding us toward the main shelter entrance," Torres realized. "They want to get us all in one place before they use that big weapon." In the underground shelter, the situation was becoming critical. Emma Morrison's breathing was getting worse, and the colony's limited medical supplies were almost gone. Karen Morrison held her daughter close, trying to hide her own fear. Dr. Carter continued his analysis of the captured Zephyrian technology. His discovery about the biological neural interfaces had given him an idea, but he needed more time to test. Time they didn't have. "The aliens' weapons are controlled by their nervous systems," Carter explained to the other scientists who had survived the bombardment. "Their shields, their computers, everything works through biological connections. But our technology doesn't work that way." "What does that mean?" asked Dr. Helen Price, the colony's chief medical officer. "It means their defenses might not work against our weapons," Carter said. "They've never fought anyone who uses purely mechanical and electronic systems. Their shields are designed to stop energy attacks controlled by living minds, not solid projectiles fired by computer-controlled systems." The implications were staggering. Every defensive system the aliens possessed was designed to fight enemies exactly like themselves. They had never encountered a species that approached warfare from a completely different direction above the planet. Admiral Vexstar was growing impatient. The human resistance was taking longer to crush than he had expected. These primitive beings were showing more determination than most species he had conquered. "Status report on the Devastator," Vexstar ordered. "Charging sequence at 70%, his weapons officer reported. "Ready to fire in 90 minutes. Vexstar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Excellent. Once we crack this planet's crust, the human infestation will be eliminated permanently." What Vexstar didn't know was that sensors at the edge of the system were beginning to detect something unusual. Energy signatures were appearing in deep space, signatures that didn't match any known Galactic Council technology. Captain Johnson's fleet was approaching at speeds that should have been impossible. Their faster-than-light drives used principles of quantum mechanics that allowed them to fold spacetime in ways that biological. The Devastator weapon was almost ready to fire. Admiral Vextar watched the energy readings climb higher and higher on his command screens. Soon he would crack this planet like an egg and eliminate the human problem forever. Weapon charging at 95%, reported his weapons officer. Ready to fire in 15 minutes, Vextar nodded with satisfaction. The humans had fought harder than expected, but the end result would be the same. He had conquered dozens of worlds and eliminated countless primitive species. These humans would just be another entry in his victory records. "Sir," called the sensor operator suddenly. "I'm detecting multiple contacts at the edge of the system." Energy signatures unknown. Vextar turned to look at the tactical display. Several dots had appeared on the screen, moving toward them at incredible speed. Identify those contacts. Unable to identify, sir? The energy patterns don't match any known Galactic Council technology. They're moving faster than anything in our databases. Vextar felt a slight chill of unease. In all his years of conquest, he had never encountered technology he couldn't identify. Are they reinforcements from one of the other Council species? Negative, sir. These signatures are completely unknown. Captain Johnson's fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system with a burst of energy that temporarily blinded every sensor in the area. 20 human warships materialized from nothing, their sleek hulls reflecting starlight like polished mirrors. The ships were unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Where Zephyrian vessels were built for intimidation with spikes and angular armor, human ships were designed for efficiency. Smooth curves that deflected energy weapons. No wasted space or decorative elements. Every line and surface served a purpose. Johnson stood on the bridge of the Endeavor, watching the tactical display update with information about the alien fleet. 200 enemy ships surrounded the human colony world. The odds were still 10-1 against them, but Johnson had advantages the aliens didn't know about. "All ships, this is Johnson," he transmitted to his fleet. "We have civilian lives at stake down there. Execute Plan Alpha. Show these aliens what human technology can do." The first engagement began when a patrol of 6 Zephyrian cruisers moved to intercept the unknown contacts. Commander Sektar led the patrol, confident that his ships could handle whatever primitive technology these newcomers possessed. "Unknown vessels, identify yourselves," Sektar transmitted. "You are entering Zephyrian space without permission." Captain Sarah Phillips of the human cruiser Defiant responded by targeting the lead alien ship with her main gun. The railgun fired a solid tungsten projectile at 15% of light speed. The projectile hit the Zephyrian cruiser's energy shield and passed right through it like the shield wasn't even there. The tungsten rod punched through the alien ship's hull, traveled the length of the vessel, and exited out the back. Secondary explosions rippled along the ship's length as critical systems failed. In seconds, the Zephyrian cruiser was a drifting wreck. Sektar stared at his screens in shock. How did they penetrate our shields? His answer came in the form of more railgun fire from the human ships. Solid projectiles moving at incredible speeds tore through Zephyrian defenses like they were made of paper. The aliens' energy shields, designed to stop plasma beams and particle weapons, offered no protection against solid matter. "Fall back," Sektar ordered. "Alert the fleet." These weapons are unlike anything we've encountered. Down on the planet's surface, Dr. Carter was monitoring the battle through the colony's emergency communication system. He watched the sensor readings with growing excitement as he realized his theory was being proven correct. "The human ships are using kinetic weapons," Carter explained to the other scientists huddled in the underground shelter. "Solid projectiles fired at extreme velocities. The alien shields can't stop them because they're designed to deflect." "Energy, not solid matter?" Dr. Helen Price looked confused. "But why would that matter? Surely the aliens have encountered kinetic weapons before." "No, they haven't," Carter said with growing certainty. Every species in the Galactic Council evolved. The same bio-neural interface technology. They all use energy weapons controlled by their nervous systems. They've never fought anyone who uses purely mechanical systems. The implications were staggering. The entire Galactic Council military doctrine was based on fighting enemies who used the same basic technology they did. They had shields that stopped. Energy weapons, armor that deflected particle beams. Computer systems that interfaced with biological neural networks, but humans had evolved differently. Human technology was based on electronics and artificial intelligence. Human weapons were controlled by computers, not biological interfaces. Human tactics were developed by studying purely mechanical systems. Admiral Vexstar watched his patrol ships being destroyed and felt something he had never experienced before in combat: uncertainty. These unknown ships were using weapons that seemed primitive, but they were cutting through his fleet like a hot knife through ice. "Analysis of enemy weapons," Vexstar demanded. "Kinetic projectiles, sir," his science officer reported. "Solid matter accelerated to extreme velocities. Our shields are ineffective against them." "Impossible," Vexstar snarled. "No civilized species uses kinetic weapons. They're crude and inefficient. Nevertheless, sir, they appear to be highly effective against our defensive systems." Vexstar realized that his assumptions about these newcomers might be wrong. "Open a communication channel. I want to speak to their commander." The main display on Johnson's bridge showed the reptilian face of Admiral Vexstar. The alien looked angry and confused, emotions that Johnson found encouraging. "I am Admiral Vexstar of the Zephyrian Empire," the alien said. "Identify your species and state your business in this system." Johnson stepped forward so the alien could see him clearly. "I am Captain Matt Johnson of the United Earth Defense Force. You have attacked human civilians. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Vexstar's expression changed from anger to something that might have been amusement. "Earth? We have no record of any significant military force from Earth. Your species is listed as primitive and non-threatening. Your information is out of date," Johnson replied calmly. "Humanity has been preparing for this moment for over a century. We know about the Galactic Council. We know about species like yours who think might makes right. And we've been getting ready to defend ourselves?" "Impossible," Vexstar said. "Our intelligence indicates that humans possess no significant military technology. No energy manipulation abilities, no psychic powers. You are a young species with crude weapons." Johnson smiled. "You're right about one thing. We don't have psychic powers or energy manipulation abilities. We've had to develop other skills. Would you like a demonstration?" Before Vexstar could respond, Johnson cut the communication link and turned to his weapons officer. "Target their command ship's weapon systems. Let's show them what crude human weapons can do." The Endeavor's main battery consisted of 6 railguns, each one capable of firing projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. The guns were controlled by artificial intelligence systems that could calculate firing solutions faster than any biological brain could think. The tungsten projectiles streaked across space and struck the Zephyrian command ship's hull where the Devastator weapon was mounted. The superweapon that had been charging to destroy the human colony exploded in a cascade of secondary detonations. Vexstar was thrown to the deck as his ship shuddered under the impact. Emergency lights flashed red as damage reports flooded in from all sections of the vessel. "Devastator weapon destroyed," his weapons officer reported. "Main gun batteries offline. Shield generators operating at 30%. Vexstar pulled himself back to his feet, his mind reeling from the implications of what had just happened. These humans had destroyed his most powerful weapon with a single volley from ships that shouldn't have been able to penetrate his defenses. How many ships do they have? Vexstar demanded. 20 contacts confirmed, the sensor operator replied. But sir, our long-range sensors are detecting additional energy signatures approaching from multiple directions. Johnson's fleet was just the first wave. Across the galaxy, other human ships were responding to the emergency beacon. Vessels that had been hidden for decades were revealing themselves and racing toward the battle. Captain Morrison, still fighting, with his 3 remaining ships near the planet, couldn't believe what he was seeing on his sensors. The alien fleet that had seemed invincible was being systematically destroyed by human ships using weapons he didn't even know existed. "Captain," Harper said, her voice filled with wonder, "we're receiving a transmission from the lead Earth ship. They're asking for tactical information about alien ground forces." Morrison grabbed the communication handset. "Earth Fleet, this is Captain Morrison. Thank God you're here. We have 50,000 civilians on the planet's surface and alien ground troops closing in on their positions." Johnson's voice came through clearly. "Copy that, Morrison. We're deploying Marine reinforcements now. Hold your position and prepare to assist in ground operations." From the human ships, dozens of smaller craft began launching. These were dropships carrying fresh troops and supplies for the colonists who had been under siege for hours. The battle raged for 3 hours. Captain Johnson's fleet systematically destroyed Zephyrian ships with their kinetic weapons, but the aliens still had superior numbers. For every alien ship destroyed, the humans lost one of their own to concentrated enemy fire. Both sides were learning how to fight against completely different technologies. Admiral Vextar had reorganized his remaining forces, using swarm tactics to overwhelm individual human ships. The aliens couldn't penetrate human armor easily, but concentrated plasma fire from multiple ships could eventually break through. The space around Kepler 442b was filled with the wreckage of both human and alien vessels. On the planet's surface, the situation had improved dramatically. Human marine dropships had landed near the mountain shelters, bringing fresh troops and medical supplies. Colonel Torres finally had reinforcements and weapons designed to fight alien soldiers. The new human troops carried weapons that fired explosive rounds designed to penetrate alien armor. They had portable missile launchers that could destroy Zephyrian vehicles. Most importantly, they had advanced medical equipment that could help the sick and wounded colonists in the underground shelter. Dr. Helen Price was treating Emma Morrison with medicine that had been developed specifically for respiratory problems in low-oxygen environments. The little girl's breathing was already improving, and her fever was breaking. Karen Morrison held her daughter's hand while medical technicians worked around them. "Is she going to be okay?" she asked. "She'll be fine," Price assured her. "The Earth medical teams brought everything we need. Your daughter will make a full recovery." But the real change in the battle was about to come. Deep space sensors detected a massive energy signature approaching the system. Something was coming that was larger than anything anyone had ever seen. Johnson was on the bridge of the Endeavour when his sensor operator made the announcement that would change everything. "Captain, massive contact approaching on bearing 187. Energy signature is off the charts." Johnson looked at the tactical display and felt his breath catch in his throat. The contact was enormous, bigger than any ship in the current battle. "Classification? Unknown, sir. But the signature matches our quantum drive technology. It's one of ours." Admiral Vextar saw the same readings on his own screens and felt something he had never experienced before in his long military career: fear. The approaching object was larger than his entire command ship. If it was armed proportionally to its size, his fleet was in serious trouble. "What is that thing?" Vextar demanded. "Unknown, sir," his sensor operator replied. "The energy output suggests a vessel of unprecedented size." The massive object dropped out of hyperspace like a small moon entering the battlefield. The Terra's Wrath was 3 kilometers long and 1 kilometer wide, a super dreadnought that represented the pinnacle of human military engineering. Its hull was smooth black metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Admiral Kevin Brooks stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking out at the battle that had been raging in his absence. He was 62 years old and had spent his entire adult life preparing for this moment. Behind him, his crew worked at stations that controlled weapon systems capable of destroying entire fleets. "Sir, we have 50 additional ships dropping out of hyperspace," reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Grace Parker. The entire reserve fleet is arriving on schedule. Brooks nodded. The Terra's wrath was not alone. 50 more human warships materialized around the super dreadnought, representing the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. Ships that had been hidden throughout the galaxy for decades finally revealed themselves. The human fleet now numbered over 70 ships against the remaining 130 Zephyrian vessels. But more importantly, the aliens were facing weapons and tactics they had never encountered before. Brooks opened a communication channel that broadcast to every ship in the system, both human and alien. This is Admiral Kevin Brooks of the United Earth Defense Force. Human civilians are under the protection of Earth. Any hostile action against human colonies will be considered an act of war against the entire human species. Vextar stared at the massive human ship and realized that everything he thought he knew about this species was wrong. These weren't primitive beings with crude technology. They were a highly advanced civilization that had been hiding their true capabilities for over a century. Admiral Brooks, Vextar transmitted. I am Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire. We claim this world by right of conquest. Your species has no standing in Galactic Council law. Brooks' reply was calm and matter-of-fact. Galactic Council. Law doesn't apply to species that aren't members of the Council. And as of today, humanity is withdrawing its application for membership. We'll make our own laws. The implications of Brooks' statement hit Vextar like a physical blow. If humanity refused to join the Galactic Council, they couldn't be bound by Council decisions. They would be a free agent in galactic politics, answerable to no one but themselves. Brooks continued speaking. You have 1 hour to withdraw your forces from this system. Any Zephyrian ships remaining after that time will be destroyed. You cannot threaten the Zephyrian Empire, Vextar snarled. We have conquered dozens of worlds. We have never been defeated in battle. There's a first time for everything, Brooks replied calmly. The Terra's wrath began deploying its fighter wings. Hundreds of small single-pilot craft launched from the super dreadnought's fighter bays. Each fighter was controlled by an artificial intelligence system working in partnership with a human pilot, creating a level of coordination that biological pilots couldn't match. Wing Commander Julie Adams led the fighter assault on the remaining Zephyrian ground forces. Her fighters moved with inhuman precision, striking alien positions with surgical accuracy. The Zephyrian soldiers on the planet's surface found themselves under attack by enemies that seemed to know their exact positions before they moved. At the same time, Marine dropships commanded by Colonel Frank Mitchell began landing reinforcements to support Tora's resistance fighters. Fresh troops with advanced weapons and medical supplies poured onto the planet's surface. The tide of the ground battle turned completely. Zephyrian forces that had been hunting human colonists suddenly found themselves surrounded and outgunned. Human troops with armor-piercing weapons and portable missile launchers systematically destroyed alien vehicles and strongpoints, but Admiral Vextar wasn't finished yet. In a desperate fury at seeing his forces defeated by a species he had considered primitive, he decided to use the one weapon the humans couldn't stop. If he couldn't have the planet, no one could. Prepare to ram the human colony world, Vextar ordered. We'll destroy the planet with our ship's mass. His crew looked at him in shock. Ramming the planet would destroy the Zephyrian command ship and kill everyone aboard, but it would also eliminate the human colony. Sir, that's a suicide attack, his first officer protested. Better to die gloriously than live in defeat, Vextar snarled. These humans think they can humiliate the Zephyrian Empire. We'll show them the price of defying us. The massive Zephyrian command ship began accelerating toward the planet. If it struck at full speed, the impact would be like a massive asteroid collision. Every living thing on the planet's surface would die. Brooks watched the alien ship's trajectory and realized what Vextar was planning. Target the Zephyrian command ship, all weapons. The Terra's Wrath's main battery consisted of 12 nuclear torpedo launchers, each one capable of firing warheads with yields measured in megatons. The artificial intelligence targeting systems calculated the firing solution faster than any biological brain could think. Firing, announced the weapons. Officer, a single nuclear torpedo streaked across space toward the accelerating Zephyrian command ship. The warhead struck the alien vessel's hull and detonated with the force of a small star. The explosion was visible from the planet's surface as a new sun briefly appeared in the sky. When the light faded, there was nothing left of Admiral Vextar's ship except expanding clouds of radioactive gas, the remaining Zephyrian fleet. Seeing their commander's ship destroyed and facing overwhelming human firepower, began to surrender. Ship after ship shut down their weapons and engines, signaling their capitulation. Captain Morrison was finally able to return to the planet's surface and reunite with his family. He found Karen and the twins in the medical center that the Earth forces had established. Emma was sitting up in bed, her breathing clear and strong. "Daddy!" Both children shouted when they saw him. Morrison hugged his family tightly, feeling tears in his eyes. "It's over," he said. "We're safe now." Dr. Carter was working with the Earth scientists, analyzing captured Zephyrian technology and comparing it to human systems. His discoveries would change humanity's understanding of galactic civilization. The aliens' bio-neural interface technology is actually less advanced than our electronic systems in many ways, Carter explained to Admiral Brooks. They've been so focused on biological evolution that they've neglected purely mechanical development, Brooks nodded. That's what we've been counting on for the past century. While they were perfecting energy manipulation, we were developing quantum mechanics and artificial intelligence.